LIV Golf just changed everything about what it is. And the reason it had to is the part they don't want you to look at too closely. When LIV Golf launched, its identity was the product. That was the whole point. 54 holes instead of 72. Shotgun starts, loud music, no cuts, a format that was shorter, louder, and deliberately designed to feel like nothing else in professional golf. The league did not just want to compete with the PGA Tour. It wanted to make the PGA Tour look old, rigid, out of touch. The pitch to players was not just money, it was a vision. Here is a new version of the game, built for a new audience, and you get to be part of building it. That identity gave LIV something that money alone cannot buy. It gave the league a reason to exist beyond the contracts. It gave them a philosophy, and for a while that philosophy was the shield against every critic who said the league was just a checkbook with a logo, because you could point to the format and say, "This is different. This is new. This is what we chose to be." LIV Golf just walked away from that identity. And the question is whether it had a real choice. For the 2026 season, LIV Golf expanded from its signature 54-hole format to 72 holes. That is standard tournament length, the same structure that every other major professional tour in the world uses. The shotgun start remains, and the league has added extra qualifying spots and broadened access through the International Series and other qualifying routes. But the headline is impossible to spin away. LIV Golf now looks, at its core, like a more conventional tour than it did 12 months ago. The league framed this as growth, evolution, a natural progression for a competition that has matured past its startup phase. But listen to that framing carefully, because it is doing a lot of work. A competition that is genuinely growing does not need to quietly abandon the format choices it spent 3 years defending. A league that is operating from a position of strength does not need to restructure itself in the direction of the institution it originally set out to replace. What LIV just did is not evolution. It is adaptation under pressure. Understanding what kind of pressure tells you everything about where this league actually stands right now. The pressure driving this change has a name: official World Golf Ranking Points. Since the day LIV launched, the absence of ranking points has been the single most corrosive problem the league faces, not just commercially, but for the players themselves. Without ranking points, LIV players cannot accumulate the global standing that opens doors to major championships. Without those doors, the careers of players who committed fully to a LIV become progressively more isolated from the parts of the sport that define legacies. The green jackets, the claret jugs, the moments that players remember at the end of their careers and that fans remember forever. LIV has been trying to fix this since the beginning. The 54-hole format was one of the barriers because the official World Golf Ranking System requires 72 holes for full point eligibility. By making the switch, LIV has removed one of the structural objections to its ranking application. The league is now, at least on paper, playing the same number of holes as every other tour it is asking to be compared with. But here is the problem with that calculation. Moving to 72 holes does not guarantee ranking points. It removes one objection among several. The official World Golf Ranking has multiple criteria, including field strength, schedule depth, and competitive integrity, and LIV's application has stalled before on grounds that go beyond format. What the league has done is make itself easier to say yes to. It has not made a yes inevitable, and it has sacrificed the one thing that made it genuinely distinctive in the process. The league's own financial filings have shown cumulative losses exceeding £1.1 billion in its non-US operations since launch. Broadcast revenue remains limited. The television deals that were supposed to give LIV mainstream visibility have consistently under-delivered. Sponsorship has not filled the gap. And according to reporting from April 2026, the league's funding is secured only through the end of the current season. There is no confirmed financial roadmap for what comes after. Let that sit for a moment. A league that launched by handing out $100 million contracts and promising a permanent revolution in professional golf is currently operating on a season-by-season funding horizon. The entity backing it, Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, a sovereign wealth fund worth over $700 billion, has not walked away. But the posture from the public investment fund has reportedly shifted from unconditional investment to a demand for results. Real commercial returns, evidence that this thing can eventually stand on its own. Against that backdrop, the 72-hole announcement reads very differently. It is not a league expanding from a position of confidence. It is a league trying to solve its most urgent problem, ranking credibility, while the clock on its financial runway ticks loudly in the background. The move to 72 holes may ultimately help, but it cannot by itself fix the underlying economics. And if it does not generate the ranking points it is designed to pursue, LIV will have surrendered its identity for nothing. That is where the backfire risk lives, and it is real. Well, LIV built its audience and its player relationships on the argument that it was something different. The players who crossed over, who burned bridges with the PGA Tour, who absorbed the criticism, who took the money and accepted the uncertainty, many of them did so because they believed in the idea as much as the contract. Not all of them, but enough that the league's identity mattered beyond the financial terms. If LIV becomes 72 holes, chases the same ranking system as everyone else, expands its qualifying structure to look more like a conventional tour, and continues to change its format every season in response to external pressure, at what point do the players who stayed loyal to the original vision start asking what exactly they stayed loyal to? At what point do the critics who said LIV was just a copy of the traditional tours with Saudi money feel vindicated? There is a version of this where the 72-hole move works, where ranking points are granted, where the league gains credibility, where sponsors follow the credibility, where the economics stabilize, where LIV earns the legitimacy it has been chasing since day one. That path exists. It is narrow, and it requires things going right that have consistently gone wrong, but it exists. And there is another version, where the format change alienates the fans who liked what a LIV was, where the ranking points still do not come, where the financial runway ends before the commercial model is fixed, where a league that tried to be everything, disruptor and establishment at once, ends up being mistaken for neither. So, is this legitimacy or surrender? The honest answer is that LIV Golf itself may not know yet. The 72-hole shift is a bet, a calculated move by a league that cannot afford to keep doing what it has been doing and expect different results. Whether it reads as a sign of maturity or a sign of desperation depends almost entirely on what comes next, on whether the ranking points arrive, on whether the Saudi backing holds through the end of the season and beyond, and on whether the players who built their careers around this league feel like the ground beneath them is getting more solid or less. What is not in question is that LIV Golf changed because it had to. Not because the original vision was wrong, not because 54 holes was a failed experiment, but because the gap between what the league promised and what it has been able to deliver commercially has forced it into a corner where adaptation is the only available move.